Good day, Kabibal, and welcome to our Speakers Demo Reel webinar series. For the demo teaching today, the topic will be on to do or not to do, the basics of a good research interview. Before we begin, take note of the following reminders. We will be posting the Zoom link in the comment section before our demo teaching, and the first 10 participants to join the Zoom meeting will be allowed to have close interaction with the speaker during the session and have an open forum after the demo teaching. The first 10 participants will serve as the students for the speaker's demo reel and will get a copy of the speaker's presentation at the end of the webinar. For those who will be chosen, please make sure that you participate actively, that you turn your microphones off until asked to turn on.
Do you enjoy learning with Vibal? Make your experience even more exciting by becoming a Vibal Group fan. Exclusive perks await fan subscribers. Get access to exclusive webinars. Enjoy free teaching resources. Check out exclusive content. Get discounts on Vibal products. All of these for only 55 pesos a month. Exciting, right? Subscribe as a fan now. Here's how. Visit, click, follow. First, visit Vibal Group's Facebook page. Then click Become a Supporter to purchase a monthly subscription. Lastly, follow the prompts that appear on your screen. But don't confuse this for top fan. Nuh-uh, it's a different thing. You need to follow the easy steps. Visit, click, follow. Be a Vibal Group fan and enjoy exciting perks today.
Good day again, mga ka-Vibal, and welcome to our speaker's demo reel. For the demo teaching today, the topic will be on to do or not to do, the basics of a good research interview. Before we begin, take note of the following reminders. If you wish or if you'd like to join our demo teaching for today, the Zoom link is already posted in our comment section. Just click on the link for you to be able to join our demo teaching today. Also, make sure you are registered to the webinar to have your e-certificate of participation. Please encode your correct email address for you to be able to generate your proof of attendance at certificate.vibalgroup.com. Place your questions in the comment box allotted during the session and they will be addressed by our speaker later on. Share the video using hashtag LearnAs1PH as our official hashtag to all our Vibal webinars. Experience learning, ka-Vibal! And now, to proceed with our webinar this afternoon, it is my pleasure to introduce to you our distinguished speaker today. Roxanne Rayos is a senior high school teacher at Tanzan National Trade School where she teaches English for academic and professional purposes and practical research. She graduated class salutatorian, consistent president's lister during her college days. She has completed her academic units of Master of Arts in English Language and Language Teaching and passed her comprehensive exam at Polytechnic University of the Philippines, Santa Mesa, Manila. She is currently the advisor of Language Guild Society, Debate, Spelling, and Extemporaneous Coach. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all welcome our dear speaker for this afternoon, Miss Roxanne P. Rayos.
All right, so good afternoon to all our viewers for today's Vibal webinar. May you be a teacher, student, or anyone in the audience. Good afternoon, isang magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. It is my pleasure to share with you my demo teaching for today. Again, I am Mrs. Ralios, and I hope that our session today will be enjoyable and fruitful. Sana marami tayong matutunan na mga kaalaman ngayong araw. So with that, allow me to share with you the slides that I have prepared for our discussion today. There you go. Okay, so basically this time, we will be talking about the basics of a good research interview. Kailan ba natin nasasabi na maganda na, tama na, o kailan ba natin dapat gawin ang pag-i-interview sa research. A few reminders before we start. During our virtual class, please find a quiet and calm place without distractions. Be organized and prompt to your online activities. Show respect when you speak through your body language. And simply raise your hand once you want to be called. Remain muted unless you have something to share or ask when you are asking a question, and remain attentive to ensure you do not miss important information. So today, I will be discussing all about to do or not to do, the basics of a good research interview. But before I begin our lesson, allow me to give you the objectives that we have to master at the end of this session. Number one, know the research interview, of course. Two, recognize steps in conducting interview. And third one, participate in actual interview. Later on, I have prepared several activities for us to enjoy and to really feel, no, ano nga ba talaga ang ginagawa sa real setup ng interview. Alright. Disclaimer lamang po ay since we are in a digital setup or virtual class, admittedly, we do not have all the time to do some actual activities and provide rubrics po. This is the very reason why in today's demo teaching, I allow all my students to do advanced reading and must have a clear understanding of today's lesson. And I know that some of you already experienced interviewing or being interviewed by your classmates. And that is why, my dear students, I know that you are now familiar with some situations present in our activity. It might be very challenging for your part to participate since this is virtual, but your active participation will be very much appreciated. The mechanics of the game is very simple. As I give you situations during your previous experience when interviewing someone or being interviewed by someone, simply do thumbs up if you agree that you should do this in an interview, and thumbs down if you don't agree. Got it? Got it po?
Got it po.
Okay. Again, the mechanics is simple. Do thumbs up if you agree and thumbs down if you don't agree with the situation. Okay. So, if you agree, if you should do it in an interview, in a good research interview, you will hear this sound. Okay? And if you should not do it in an interview, you should hear this sound. All right. Okay. Clear na po? All right, so let's proceed. First situation. As a researcher, you have to arrange the questions logically to make the flow of the interview smoother. I repeat, as a researcher, you have to arrange the questions logically to make the flow of the interview smoother. Is it thumbs up or thumbs down? Rene? Thumbs up or thumbs down? Okay, the answer is thumbs up. Okay. You have to arrange the questions logically in the form that you always begin with the simplest to the most complex one. All right. Next, begin by introducing yourself and the purpose for the interview. Do you really have to introduce yourself first and say your purpose or objective during the interview? Is it thumbs up or thumbs down? Yes, G? Okay, the answer is thumbs up. So first, introduce yourself. Baka mamaya nagugulat na yung mga respondents, hindi nila alam kung sino ka, no? So you have to introduce yourself, inform the respondents beforehand, and of course, know or tell them your purpose or objective. Next, tell about the respondents' information to your friends. I repeat, tell about the respondents' information to your friends. Is it thumbs up or thumbs down? Number 3, of course, that is thumbs down. Why? The information that you have gathered must be confidential and it must not be shared to anyone, even to your friends. So as a good researcher, you must be professional and must follow proper etiquette, right? Next, have a warm-up stage to make the respondents more comfortable. have a warm-up stage to make the respondents more comfortable. Are you going to ask them how they feel? Are you going to ask them, is it okay to conduct this interview? Thumbs up if you agree and thumbs down if you don't. The answer is, all right, thumbs up. Next question. The respondents will adjust to your language. I repeat, the respondents will adjust to your language. Is it the respondent or the interviewer is the one who will adjust to the language of the respondents? The answer is thumbs down. All right. Remember, class, that it is you, the interviewer, who will be adjusting to the situation, like language of the respondents. Okay. Next, are you allowed to consume all the time of your respondents? Thumbs up if you agree and thumbs down if you don't agree. Consume all the time of your respondents. Thumbs up or thumbs down? The answer is thumbs down. All right. Do not, even if they give you the time, you have to make sure that you do not consume all the time of your respondents because they will be having some important things to do for themselves. All right. Okay. Next, inform the interviewee when you want to record the conversation. Is it thumbs up or thumbs down? Inform the interviewee when you want to record the conversation. Thumbs up or thumbs down? Okay, the answer is thumbs up. You have to inform your interviewee if you want to record the conversation. Okay, next. Always thank the respondents for their time given to you or allotted to you. Do you have to do it? Always thank the respondents for their time given to you. Is it thumbs up or thumbs down? All right, the answer is thumbs up. By ending your actual interview, you have to make sure that you give thanks to the respondents since they participated in your interview. Okay, so what is interview actually? Interview is an instrument that allows the researcher to qualitatively gather data. With that in mind, you can think na research as a tool or as a research instrument, interview must only be used in a qualitative type of research. So, a research interview is typically a two-person interview conducted to increase knowledge on a given topic. So, as a researcher, you may select to interview people in search of the best possible answers. So the question now is, who are the people involved in an actual interview? Number one, an interview is a conversation for gathering information. Therefore, a research interview involves an interviewer. An interviewer who coordinates the process of the conversation and the one who asks questions. And secondly, we have the interviewee. Now, the interviewee is the one who responds to those questions or what we call the respondents. Interviews can be conducted face-to-face or over the phone. Later on, we will discuss this further. The internet is also emerging as a tool for interviewing. So you may not conduct it physically or face-to-face since we have virtual ways or techniques. Now, interviews are an appropriate method when there is a need to collect in-depth information. So when do you use it? When you want to collect in-depth information on people's opinions, on people's thoughts, experiences, and feelings. That's why this is being used in a qualitative type of research. Interviews are useful when the topic of inquiry relates to issues that require complex questioning, meaning to say there are some follow-up questions needed, supplementary questions, and considerable proving, right? So face-to-face interviews are suitable when your target population, I repeat, face-to-face interviews are suitable when your target population can communicate through face-to-face conversations better than they can communicate through writing or phone conversations. Example of these respondents are children. Of course, it's easy for you to ask children than to let them write or answer questionnaires. Who else? Elderly, disabled individuals, all right? So in order for us to be more familiar and to know what type of interview am I going to use in my research. Now, we have different types of interviews, three actually. Now, interviews, these type these types of interviews can be designed differently depending on the need being addressed and the information that you need. They can be grouped into three. Okay. Later on, we will discuss that. But before that, why do we need to know about these tips and these guidelines? No, first thing, we have to avoid encountering these situations. Number one, you should avoid getting your respondents bored during interview. Why? The very reason you are having research interview as a tool for gathering data is for you to have a rich kind of data. So kapag na-board ang mga respondents mo, ano pang sense? Ano pang dahilan para makapagbigay sila ng rich kind of data? Ano pang magagather mo sa kanila? So you have to be creative. Later on, I will show you some examples on how to do it creatively. Next, of course, as kunwari ikaw naman respondent, no, you do not want to have unrecognized main points. You want to be recognized. You want to share your experience, your thoughts and feelings. By doing that, kailangan nafi-feel mo as a respondent na may concern din sa'yo si interviewer. And lastly, to avoid awkward moments, right? So let's go now to the types of interviews. You have to listen carefully because later on we will have a unique way on how to interview or ask you questions regarding our lesson today. Okay. The first type of interview is what we call structured interview. I repeat, structured from the word itself. Structured interview where the interviewer asks a set of standard or predetermined questions about your particular topic in a specific order. I repeat, among the three types of research interview, this is, I must say that this is the most followed one. Okay, first one, structured interview. This type of interview is when the interviewer asks a set of standard or a predetermined questions about your topic in a specific order. So you have a set of standard with your questions, and then the respondents need to select their answer from a list of options that you have given to them. Again, in a structured interview, that's why it's called structured, you have a set of questions and a list of options for the respondents to answer your questions. So the interviewer may provide clarification on some questions. Remember that structured interviews are typically used in survey. All right, so you have set of questions there, your predetermined questions based on the topic that you have, based on your research in a specific order, and then you have a list of options where the respondents can choose from. All right? So in our second type, we have what we call the semi-structured interview. Now, how does it differ from structured interview? Semi-structured interviews, this happens when the interviewer uses a set of predetermined questions and just like the structured interview, but the only difference is how the respondents answer from your questions. Sabi natin kanina, in a structured interview, the reason why it's called structured is because you have a set of standard in your questionnaire, and then it is aligned in a specific order. Then the respondents can answer through your list of options. Now, in a semi-structured interviews, this happens when the respondents answer in their own words. I repeat, pinagkaparehas nila na structured, they have the same set of standard when it comes to questionnaire or the predetermined questions based on the topic that you have. The only difference is in a structured interview, you have a list of options. The respondents can choose from your options. But in a semi-structured interview, the respondents cannot choose, or you do not have list of options or answers. What? Because the respondents can answer through their own words, through they may share their experience, their opinion about the question. So it's very open, generic. Some interviews can use a topic guide that serves as a checklist, pwede yun, no? To ensure that all respondents provide information on the same topic. The interviewer now can prove areas based on the respondents' answer or ask follow-up questions or supplementary questions for clarification. Now, in a semi-structured interview, it is useful when there is a need to collect in-depth information in a systematic manner. Now, from a number of respondents or interviewees, example, there is a commonality with your respondents, a group of teachers, group of students, politicians, community leaders, all right? So from there, there is a systematic manner of gathering or collecting in-depth information from your respondents. Okay? So that is our second type of interview. The third one is what we call the structured interview. Again, first one, we have structured interview. You have a series of questions, and then the respondents can answer through your options, right? Second, semi-structured interview happens when there is a series of questions, but your respondents answer differently since they can answer through their own words alone. Okay? Now, how this unstructured interview happens? In an unstructured interview, the interviewer has no specific questions, has no guidelines, he has no restrictions, predetermined questions, or list of options. Okay? The interviewer asks a few broad questions. I repeat, the interviewer asks a few broad questions to engage the respondent in an open, informal, and spontaneous discussion. So when we say spontaneous, it's really an open-ended conversation from the respondents and the interviewer. Okay. Now, the interviewer also may provide further questions or explore inconsistencies to gather more in-depth information on the topic. Now, this is particularly useful for example, getting stories from getting stories from your respondents behind their experiences, or when there is very little information about the topic. Okay? Okay. Before we proceed, I would like to clarify again the three types of interview. Again, interview is being used in a qualitative type of research. Now, there are three different ways on how to do, or different types on how to do interview. We have first the structured interview, second semi-structured interview, and third one is the unstructured interview. Now, these three differ from the series of questions that you have set, or the predetermined questions, and the way how your respondents uh, give their answers, right? Now, another question. Since we are now able to know that the three steps, or I mean the three types of interview, the question now is, how do we conduct a good research interview if we do not have, or if our respondents is not available face to face? Okay, so you may have types of interviews in research based on a different method. Okay, so number one, we have email interviews. What is an email interview? An email interview happens from the word itself, email. You send your questions to your prospects, or target respondents via email, and they can reply their answers via email too. Okay. Second, you may also have web interviews. So web interviews, you can have example, a Zoom. You can conduct your interview through Zoom. You can conduct your interview through Google Meet and other platforms, right? Online. And personal interviews, this depends on the way how you will conduct your research, or your research interview, no? But then again, if your respondents or you are not available for the actual face-to-face discussion, then you may skip the personal interview. Then you have the telephonic interview. A telephonic interview, of course, uses telephone. So you may simply call your respondents, deliberately ask the questions, and then they can also reply through phone. Okay, right? Let's recall. So we have um, interview, and types of interview: face to face. What type of structure? Is it structure, semi-structure, structured, semi-structured, or unstructured interview? Okay. Remember that an online interview is a research method conducted using computer-mediated communication, also known as CMC, such as instant messaging, email or video. Online interviews, like offline interviews, typically ask respondents to explain what they think or how they feel about an aspect of their social world. All right. So by this time, we have to review if you really understand our lesson. But this is not the end of our session yet. Okay, so I have invited our guest for today, Mr. Vic Soto, to have okay, katawaan lang, no? Assumingly you will win, you may win a prize, no? Katawaan lang. So thank you, Mr. Vic Soto, for our Who Wants to Be a Millionaire Vibal edition. So I will show you some questions, and please answer according to the learning that you have learned today. Okay? First question. Worth 500 pesos. Kunwari lang. The interviewer asks a set of standard and predetermined questions about topic in a specific order. I repeat, the interviewer asks a set of standard and predetermined questions about topic in a specific order. Is it A, structured interview, B, unstructured interview, or C, semi-structured interview, or letter C, unstructured interview? I repeat, the choices are A, structured interview, B, semi-structured interview, or letter C, unstructured interview. The answer is okay, good job. Letter A, structured interview. All right, next question. Worth 1,000 pesos. Uy, malaki na. The interviewer has no specific guidelines. This type of research is being used when the interviewer has no specific guidelines, restrictions, or list of options. The interviewer has no specific guidelines, restrictions, or list of options. Is it A, structured interview, B, semi-structured interview, or C, unstructured interview? The answer is correct. Letter C, unstructured interview. Good job! Galing nyo ha! Okay, for question number 3, worth 2,000 pesos. The interviewer uses a set of predetermined questions and the respondents answer in their own words. I repeat, the interviewer uses a set of predetermined questions and the respondents answer in their own words. Is it A, structured interview, B, semi-structured interview, or C, unstructured interview? You may type your answer now. Okay, the answer is good job. Letter B, semi-structured interview. For our fourth question, worth 3,000 pesos. These type of interview are particularly useful for getting stories behind respondents' experiences. It's literally an open one. This type of interview are particularly useful for getting the stories behind respondents' experiences. Is it A, structured interview, B, semi-structured interview, or C, unstructured interview? You may type your answer now. Okay, the answer is unstructured interview. Daming nakatama. Good job, teachers and students. Okay, for our fifth question, worth 5,000 pesos. The interviewer can prove areas based on respondents' answer or ask supplementary questions for clarification. Is it A, structured interview, B, semi-structured interview, or C, unstructured interview? The answer is letter B, semi-structured interview. Okay, now that we are all familiar with the types of interview, let's go now on the steps in conducting an interview. How do we really conduct an interview? So we have three steps in conducting our interview. The first one is what we call before interview. So these are the things that you do before the interview happens. It is the initial part of the interview where when the questions that will make respondents more at ease are being asked, right? So number one is what we call, okay, number one or the first step is what you have to do is to define your objectives. In doing that, ayan, may mga humahabol pa, no? Yes, correct. Yes, correct, correct, correct. Ayan, puro tama. Claudine De La Cruz, correct. Rachel, correct. Okay. Shane Quario, correct. Ara, correct. Ang galing. Ang gagaling ng ating students. All right. So the first one is what we call what you have to do is you have to define your objectives. Right? In doing this, identify what you want to achieve and the information you need to gather your data. You have to make sure an interview is the appropriate way to meet your objectives. Okay. Second, choose the type of interview that you want to have. So, review your required information, the budget, the time, and the potential respondents that you will have in your interview, and decide whether you need to conduct structured, semi-structured, or unstructured interviews. So, as a researcher, you may, you know in yourself what type best suits your respondents. Third one is you have to choose the appropriate respondents. So in doing that, it depends on the type of interview that you will have. You have to decide on the characteristics of the interviewees. What else? The number of interviews required, and then fourth one, decide how will you conduct the interview. How will you conduct it? Will you conduct it face-to-face or via telephonic interview, web interview, face-to-face, a physical interview, a personal rather, email or via email? And then the fifth one, decide how to recruit your respondents. This one is very difficult, but you really have to do it to, you have to obtain contact information for a number of respondents larger than the number of interviews you need. Okay, since some may not respond, you have to be ready on that. Contact them by phone, email, or regular mail, and then introduce yourself and your purpose. Why are you doing this? Okay, and then tell them the purpose of the study. Explain the purpose of your interview and the importance of their participation in your interview, and set an appointment in doing that. Number 6, decide how will you record the interview. Of course, you have to let your respondents know that you will record your interview and transcribe it right after the interview. Decide how will you depending on the type of interview that you have, you may fill in a prepared form, use written notes, voice records, or computer aided devices. Okay, and then make a list of questions and test them with a sample of respondents. So this may not be your actual interview right away, but you have to conduct interview testing for you to know if it's really effective or if it's really the type of interview that you would like to have in your instrument. Make a list of questions, and then if you're running structured interview, make sure that you need to have a questionnaire design, right? What happened? Okay. Number 8, oops, wait. What happened? Wait lang po. Okay. Okay, let's go back. Sorry, there are just some now. Okay, so since um we are now in the last part of our before interviews before interview steps, or steps in doing before interview. The last one is you have to decide who will conduct the interview. So how will you do it? In conducting your interview, it is important to develop information kit, or information kit that includes introduction, the research topic, and the instruction that you have to do. For unstructured interviews, let's say you will be using unstructured interview, you may need to hire skilled interviewers, since this is purely about sharing personal experiences, and there are supplementary questions that you have to do. Now, if you are not comfortable doing it, you may hire some skilled interviewers, right? Now, second part is what we call the during interview. Now, in during interview, it has 10 steps on how you will do it. Number 1, you have to introduce yourself, and initiate a friendly but professional conversation. Of course, do not be so informal, since you're doing this. You still have to follow etiquettes in research. Okay. Number 2, state your purpose. Why are you doing this? Your objective, your goal, and how important this research is. And then number 3, you always have yourself prepared. You have to be prepared to with some incidents, or let's say unexpected situations, unexpected scenarios. So if your respondents are not yet ready for the interview, you can also reschedule it. Okay. And then the interview, if a respondent has a problem with the timing, explain to them that you are also available during this time, and you understand their situation. You can have the interview later on, or in some other days. Okay. Next, explain the format to the respondents. So these would be the questions that you have to answer based on our study. And then explain the details. How to do that? Tell the respondents how the interview will be recorded, and how the collected information will be used. If possible, obtain their written consent to participate. Okay, so you should have uh, uh, a letter of consent that they are allowing you to conduct this interview, or that they really agreed on this time and this schedule, right? Do not decide on your own, please. Okay, next, ask respondents if they have any questions. So at some point, you have to understand that there are questions that are difficult to understand. Now, it's okay if your respondents would have some follow-up question. I'm sorry, would have clarifications, and you have to get ready with that. Okay. Number 7, control your tone of voice and language. Like what I have mentioned earlier, be sure that the researcher will adjust the language of the respondents, and the respondents would not do not expect that your respondents would adjust to your language. And control your tone of voice. Make sure that you are still a professional, that you are in a good tone, that you do not give foul words and such. All right. And 8, keep the focus on the topic of inquiry. So minsan kasi, lalo na kapag unstructured interview, kasi you're just simply beating around the bush, no? We should avoid that kind of questioning, since our focus here is to let our respondents answer the questions directly. based on their experience, but still related to the topic that you have. Okay? Kasi kailangan yun eh. Ensure proper recording without distracting the respondents. Make sure that you check your notes and voice recorder regularly and have some testing if it works or not. And then 10, complete the session. Complete the session means you do not just leave your respondents right away, right after you get all their their answers and their after you have gathered the data. Make sure that all questions were asked. Explain again how will you use the data. Secure confidentiality that all their answers, all their information will be confidential and will not be shared to anyone, even to your friends. And finally, thank your respondents and ask them if they have any questions. So if they have questions, do some follow-up clarifications with that, all right? Okay. Now, what will you do if it's after the interview? Polish the details. So after interview happens when the interviewer is done with the research, with the question, and when the interviewer or the researcher is finally ready to organize and analyze the gathered data. Okay. Organize your interview and the respondents according to the need or the information that you needed. And then responses from unstructured and semi-structured interviews needed to be transcribed. Kailangan i-transcribe kasi it's literally based on the respondent's answer or their own words. So you do not have, you cannot interpret it. You cannot interpret it since it's not numbered and there you do not have options since it's unstructured and semi-structured. So what you have to do is simply transcribe it. Third one, get ready for data analysis. Search for the resources for analyzing qualitative and or quantitative type of data. Okay. All right. So let's continue our quiz slide lizard from our guest. Who wants to be a millionaire Vibal edition? You may type your answer again. Okay, for 100,000 pesos. Wow, ang laki. It is the initial part of the interview when questions that will make respondents more at ease are being asked. Asking them if they are comfortable, how do they feel on that day, what part of interview is that? Is it A, before interview, B, during interview, or C, after interview? All right, so your answer is correct. It's letter A, before interview. I'm sorry with the camera. There is just some technicality. I don't know what happens. Okay. For question worth 250,000 pesos. Wow, ang dami sumasagot. Yes, correct po yung sagot kanina. Question. It is when the interview is done and the researcher is finally ready to organize and analyze the gathered data. A, before interview. B, during interview. C, after interview. Okay, the answer is letter C, after interview. Correct, correct. All right. Tama po. Wow, ang dami nakatama. Ruby Ann Panet, correct. Richard Espejo, correct. Bea Bianca Flores, Christian, correct. Honey Rose, correct. Okay, ang daming nanonood. Princess Nicole, correct. Gio Martin Castro. Hi, Gio, you're correct. Pia Pantelion, correct. Okay, next question. Okay, next question. Worth 500,000 pesos. It is when the main questions directly related to the research questions are asked. It is when the main questions directly related to the research questions are asked. A, before interview. B, during interview. Or letter C, after interview. Let's wait po for other participants. Wow, ang daming nakatama. The answer is... Oh, sorry, it's letter B. Sorry. It's letter B. Letter B, correct. It's during interview. You got it correctly. Charlene Rondon, correct. Nestle Sheen Deolola, correct. Maria Cristina de la Cruz, correct. Kyla, Pamela, Marinel, ang gagaling ninyo. Tracy, correct. Clean Velasco, correct. Trisha, Elsa, John Lee, correct. Okay. Ellen Joy Kalonge, correct. Ang gagaling. Richard Espejo, correct again. Ang galing ni Richard, ah. Charmaine Manulat, correct. Okay, let's proceed. Pia, correct. Pia Pantaleon. Ira Aquino. Clean Velasco, correct. Mayan, correct. Wow, thank you so much sa lahat ng nanonood po at nanonood pa din. For a million question, now we will have this differently. No? Because we have another guest who is known for king of fast talk. Sige nga, hulaan niya natin. Tingnan natin kung may makakahula. The king of fast talk will ask the million questions. Yes, questions, madami. Okay, correct. Ira Aquino, Amy Olap, correct. Tama po yung sagot ninyo. Alright, correct. May nakasagot na. Ruby Ann, correct. We have Mr. Boy Abunda. Okay, thank you, Tito Boy. So I will be flashing here, reading pala. I will be reading some questions. You just have to answer true or false. Again, as fast as you can. Babasahin natin kung sino yung mga makakatama. As fast as you can. Okay. First question. True or false? The respondent's information should always be confidential. True or false? Correct. Tracy Dison, you're correct. That is true. A point for you. Second, always give thanks to the interviewee after the interview. Again, always give thanks to the interviewee after the interview. True or false? Marie Chris Mamunga, correct. That is true. Next question. After interview step is the first thing to do in the steps of research interview. Again, after interview step is the first thing to do in the steps of research interview. True or false? Sheila May Idala, that's correct. The answer is false. Okay, next. Questions should be logically arranged during interview. Questions should be logically arranged during interview. True or false? Mark Leo Rabelo, correct. The answer is true. Next question. One tool in preparing research instrument is through interview. One tool in preparing research instrument is through interview. True or false? Perlene Joy Divino, you're correct. The answer is true. Okay, now you may still type your answer in our comment section. First question for our difficult round. How would your knowledge in interview help you? How would your knowledge in interview would help you? Okay, second, in what way or instance would you consider an interview beneficial to you? In what way or instance would you consider an interview beneficial to you? And our last question. To do or not to do? Sabi ni Tito Boy, I will continue this statement. I will apply my learning today in my research study because or may simply choose. Are you going to do it or are you not going to do it? I will apply my learning today in my research study. To do or not to do? Thank you so much, Richelin Madriaga. Your answer is correct. Via Alfaro, Jana Sariga, and Margie Rose Abrasha. Thank you. Your answers are all correct. Now that we are finally done with our session, let's try to recap our objectives if we have mastered it. Number 1, know the research interview. Yes, you already know what research interview is. Number 2, recognize steps in conducting research interview or conducting interview. Okay, check. And last one, participate in actual interview. Check, because you have participated with Tito Boy and Vic Soto's activities for today. For your homework, you may simply answer this through your Google Classroom. So answer the following questions by filling out the table. I will interview because I made an appointment with him or her and interview will be on. When my questions are the following. Do you have questions, students? Questions? If you do not have any more questions, that would be all for today and let's call it a day. Thank you so much for your participation. Thank you po.
Thank you very much, Ms. Roxanne. Thank you very much to our participants that participated actively for this afternoon. Now we will proceed to our question and answer portion. Our participants here in the Zoom meeting can type in their questions, and also for our YouTube viewers, you may type in your questions in our comment section. While we're waiting for questions, we will ask our speaker to send her copy of the presentation here in the chat box so that our joiners here in the Zoom will be able to get a copy of it.
Hindi ko ba nakita to? Sure po, Miss G. Ayan. Uploading na po.
Thank you very much, Ms. Roxanne. So to all our participants, our PowerPoint presentation is already uploaded here in the chat box. You may download it and you may use it for your further researches, classes. But of course, remember to give credit to our dear speaker for this afternoon. I'm sure everybody learned a lot from our Zoom joiners, from our YouTube viewers. Everybody did learn a lot on how to teach the lesson that our demo speaker have taught this afternoon. All right, so based on our YouTube viewers, there are no questions for our speaker. They are extending their gratitude. All right, there's a lot of thank you messages here in our comment section. All right, so there's no questions from our YouTube viewers. How about from our Zoom joiners? I guess we don't have questions anymore. So thank you very much, ma'am. Do you have any last reminders to our viewers for today?
Thank you, Miss G. Siguro last reminder na lang, that always remember that these may be difficult for us, especially in conducting research interview. But what you have to do is be practical, be wise, and creative. Thank you, Miss G.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Meron po tayong pahabol na question from our YouTube viewer. It's from Jana Suryaga. Ma'am Roxanne, ano po ang mas prefer mo? Qualitative or quantitative research?
Kung ako sa akin, quali, kasi as an English teacher, dapat talaga ang target natin dyan ay ma-master natin yung qualitative type of research. Pero sa mga students, depende yun sa study na gusto nilang i-conduct. Now, kung saan sila mas komportable, kung quanti or quali, it doesn't matter for as long as they can do it properly. Thank you, Ms.
Thank you very much, Ms. Roxanne. Thank you very much to all our participants. There we have it. In behalf of Vibal Group Incorporated, I would like to thank our speaker for today for this indeed very interactive and insightful demo teaching session. It is an honor to have you with us today, ma'am. And to all our Vibal viewers, all thanks to you for your continuous patronage to all our daily learning session. Special thanks to our teachers who acted as our students for this afternoon. Ma'am Ara Alcantara Mina, Ma'am Chinlu O. Bakaling, Christian Mon Basamot, Claudine B. De La Cruz, Hannah Joy Lorenzo, Jade Christian Tria, John Paulo Sabado, Jocelyn S. Orpilla, Kaysheline Yambalia Campos, Mary Angeline Roque, Mary Ann Sumaway, Mayril Jean Viernes, Renee Nanit, Ray Shineline Angelica Butak, Shane Quario, and Tracy Jem Kabamalan. So you may download our speaker's presentation in our chat box. Don't forget to register with your correct email address for you to be able to get your e-certificate of participation. We also encourage you to subscribe and watch on our YouTube channel and official Vibal Facebook page. Muli, maraming salamat at magandang araw sa ating lahat.
Thank you po.